What if I told you there are places on this earth so haunted, so psychologically devastating, that visitors leave fundamentally changed? We're not talking about jump scares or creaky floorboards. We're talking about locations that crawl inside your mind and never leave. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're ranking the most terrifying haunted places on Earth. But not by how many ghosts they have. No, we're ranking them by how completely they will break your sanity. From mildly disturbing to absolutely I've created 5 tiers for our ranking. At the bottom, we have Tier 5, spooky but survivable. These places will give you chills, but you'll walk away intact. Tier 4, genuine nightmare material. You'll lose sleep, but you'll recover. Tier 3, psychological damage territory. These locations leave scars. Tier 2, sanity draining. These places fundamentally alter how you see reality. And finally, Tier 1, complete soul destruction. If you make it out, you're never the same person again. Let's begin. Tier 5. Spooky but survivable. The Tower of London. Starting at Tier 5, we have the Tower of London. Now, don't get me wrong, this place is absolutely haunted. Anne Boleyn has been spotted walking the grounds without her head. The ghost of Lady Jane Grey appears on the anniversary of her execution. Guards have reported shadow figures moving through walls. But here's the thing. The tower is so old, so steeped in tourist history, that the horror almost feels sanitized. Yes, thousands died here. Yes, it was a torture site. But you're surrounded by crowds, gift shops, and guided tours. The spirits here are tragic, but they won't shatter your mind. You'll get some great ghost stories and maybe a creepy photo. Tier 5, Eastern State Penitentiary. Also in Tier 5, Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia. This prison pioneered solitary confinement, keeping inmates locked in complete darkness and silence for years. Many went completely insane. Today, visitors report shadow figures in the cells, disembodied voices, and an overwhelming feeling of being watched. The psychological weight here is real. Walking those cell blocks, you feel the despair soaked into the walls. But it's abandoned. It's a museum now. The horror is historical. You can leave whenever you want, and that safety net keeps it from climbing higher. Tier 5, Tier 4. Genuine nightmare material. The Catacombs of Paris. Moving up to Tier 4, the Catacombs of Paris. 6 million human skeletons arranged in endless underground tunnels. The walls are literally made of bones. Skulls stare at you from every angle. The temperature drops. The air becomes thick and hard to breathe. But what really elevates this place is the restricted sections. The official tours is unsettling, but there are miles of unmapped tunnels where people have gotten lost and died. Urban explorers have reported hearing footsteps behind them when they're alone, voices calling their names. Some have found fresh scratches on the walls, spelling out warnings. The dead outnumber the living 600 to 1 down there, and they know you don't belong. Tier 4, Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Also Tier 4, Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Kentucky. This tuberculosis hospital saw thousands of deaths. The disease was incurable at the time, and patients knew they'd been sent here to die. The body chute, a tunnel used to secretly transport corpses so living patients wouldn't see them, still exists. Visitors report full-bodied apparitions. A little girl named Mary who plays with your hair. Shadow people in the halls. The 4th floor, where the most disturbed patients were kept, radiates malevolence. People have panic attacks there for no reason. But you can still leave. You can still escape to the parking lot, get in your car, and drive away. That's what keeps it at Tier 4. Tier 3, psychological damage territory. Island of the Dolls, Mexico. Now we're entering Tier 3, psychological damage territory. And our first entry is the Island of the Dolls in Mexico. The story goes like this. A man named Don Julian found a drowned girl in the canals near his island. Shortly after, he found a doll floating in the same water. Believing it belonged to the dead girl, he hung it in a tree as a sign of respect. But then the hauntings began. He heard whispers, footsteps, the girl's voice calling to him at night. For 50 years, he collected dolls, thousands of them. He hung them from every tree, believing they would appease the girl's spirit. But the dolls themselves became possessed. Visitors report their eyes following you, their heads turning when you're not looking. Some dolls whisper to each other. Don Julian eventually drowned in the exact same spot as the girl. The psychological horror here is inescapable. You're surrounded by thousands of decaying dolls in various states of mutilation. Some missing limbs, some with cracked faces frozen in screams. And you can feel them watching, judging, waiting. This place doesn't just scare you, it stays with you. Tier 3, Hoia Buciu Forest, Romania. Also, Tier 3, Hoia Buciu Forest in Romania, known as the Bermuda Triangle of Transylvania. This forest has a reputation for making people vanish, not just physically. People enter and come out hours later with no memory of where they've been. Time moves differently here. Electronics malfunction, compasses spin wildly. There's a circular clearing in the center where nothing grows. Soil samples show no reason for it. It's just dead. Visitors report overwhelming anxiety, nausea, the feeling of being followed by something that isn't quite there. Photographs capture strange lights and faces in the trees that weren't visible to the naked eye. A 5-year-old girl disappeared here in the forest and returned 5 years later wearing the same clothes, not having aged a day, with no memory of where she'd been. The forest doesn't kill you, it displaces you. It removes you from reality and puts you somewhere else. And that's what makes it Tier 3. The fear isn't death, it's losing yourself to something unknowable. Tier 2, Sanity draining. Aokigahara Forest, Japan. We've reached Tier 2, Sanity draining. And we're starting with Aokigahara Forest at the base of Mount Fuji. This is the suicide forest. The second most popular place in the world for people to end their lives, over 500 confirmed deaths. But authorities stopped publishing numbers because it was encouraging more. The Japanese government has signs throughout begging people to reconsider, to call for help. The forest is unnaturally quiet. Dense vegetation blocks wind and sound. No birds sing here, no animals, just suffocating silence. Compasses don't work because of magnetic iron deposits in the volcanic soil. It's almost impossible to navigate. People tie string to trees to find their way back, but the real horror is what the forest does to your mind. You'll find remnants of the dead, a shoe, a rope still hanging, personal belongings left behind, and you'll feel them. The spirits of those who died in despair. That despair is contagious. People who enter feeling fine report sudden crushing depression, suicidal thoughts that weren't there before. The forest whispers to you. It shows you visions of taking your own life, and some people listen. This isn't a haunting, it's an infection. Tier 2, Poveglia Island, Italy. Also Tier 2, perhaps the most cursed piece of land on Earth. Poveglia Island in the Venetian Lagoon. This island has been a dumping ground for death for centuries. During the Roman Empire, plague victims were shipped here to die in isolation. Over 100,000 bodies were burned in mass graves. In the 1400s, more plague victims. Then, in 1922, a mental hospital was built directly on top of the mass graves. The doctor who ran the asylum performed horrific experiments on patients. Lobotomies without anesthesia, torture disguised as treatment. Patients reported seeing ghosts of plague victims crawling from the walls. The doctor dismissed their claims as madness until he started seeing them too. He went insane, climbed the bell tower, and threw himself off. Witnesses say he survived the fall, but was choked to death by a ghostly mist rising from the ground. The Italian government tried to auction the island. No one would buy it. Workers refused to set foot there. Fishermen won't go near it. The few paranormal investigators who visited report immediate psychological breakdowns, violent visions, overwhelming urges to harm themselves. One investigator was allegedly possessed and had to be physically removed. The island is saturated with centuries of death, madness, and suffering. It's not just haunted, it's cursed. Tier 2, Tier 1, complete soul destruction. And now, we've arrived at Tier 1, complete soul destruction. There's only one place that belongs here. A place so fundamentally wrong that it breaks everyone who experiences it fully. The catacombs of Odessa, Ukraine. The Odessa Catacombs are the largest catacomb system in the world. Over 1,500 miles of unmapped tunnels beneath the city. To put that in perspective, the Paris catacombs are about 200 miles. Odessa is nearly 8 times larger. These aren't natural caves, they're limestone mines from the 1800s, now abandoned and pitch black. The tunnels twist, split, and loop back on themselves in patterns that make no logical sense. There is no map. GPS doesn't work underground. Cell phones don't work. If you get lost, you will die down there. and people do. In 2005, a girl named Masha went down for a New Year's Eve party. She wandered away from her group while intoxicated. They searched but couldn't find her. 2 years later, explorers found her body. She'd gotten lost in the darkness and wandered until she collapsed. But here's what breaks your mind. They found evidence she'd been alive down there for days. Scratch marks on the walls, signs she'd tried to find a way out. Imagine dying slowly in absolute darkness, knowing you're just feet away from miles of identical tunnels leading nowhere. But Masha isn't alone down there anymore. Explorers report hearing a woman crying in the darkness, calling for help. They follow the sound and find nothing, just empty tunnels. Some have seen her, a pale figure in party clothes stumbling through the black. When they try to help, she vanishes. And it's not just Masha. The catacombs were used during World War II. Soldiers died down there. Civilians hid from Nazis and starved. Their bodies were never recovered. The darkness down there is alive with the dead. And if you go deep enough, far enough from the entrance, you'll feel it. The absolute certainty that you're not getting out, that the tunnels are rearranging themselves behind you, that something is following you in the dark, getting closer with every step. People who've explored the deep sections report lasting trauma, nightmares every night, claustrophobia that never goes away, an inability to be in the dark without panic. Because the Odessa Catacombs don't just scare you, they show you what it's like to be truly lost, truly alone, truly doomed, and you can never unsee that. So there you have it, 8 haunted places ranked by how completely they will break you. From the tourist-friendly scares of the Tower of London, all the way to the nightmare labyrinth beneath Odessa that destroys everyone who goes too deep. Here's my question for you. Which one of these places would break you first? Could you handle a night in the Island of the Dolls? Would you explore Poveglia? Or would you dare the Odessa Catacombs? Let me know in the comments. If this video gave you chills, smash that like button. Subscribe for more horror content, and remember, some places aren't meant to be visited, some doors aren't meant to be opened, and some darkness should never be explored. Thanks for watching, and sleep well tonight if you can.